You're listening to the NCF&B podcast, part of the OG Podcast Network. The NCF&B podcast takes you behind the scenes of North Carolina's food and beverage industry. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBpod. This episode sponsored in part by Food Scene. That's foodseen.com, providing professional photography, social media management, video production, and website design. And now, enjoy the show.
NCF&B podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And we are back in the comfy confines of the studio today. And we have another special guest, as always, with us. This man is of so many projects, but most notably known for his Under the Oak Farms catering business, which is in Clayton, North Carolina. And other projects that we'll get into shortly. But he's a very busy man, but he joined us for a couple of hours here in studio, Mr. Blake Gotliffe.
How's it going? Good to be here.
So it's good to have you on the mic. You've been like a friend of the podcast for a while now. You supplied us with sandwiches and pastrami when we had
Meredith Lee,
Author Meredith Lee on the show, which was awesome. You know, I first met you while I was at Midtown Grill as a GM because you were selling us a lot of vegetables, like root vegetables, a lot of different things to the kitchen straight out, buying local, which was pretty cool and what we tried to do over there. And I only knew you as a farmer. And then, lo and behold, months later, I get a job as the GM at Standard, and I walk in and you're behind the line cooking. I'm like, what? I know that guy. What are you doing here? So let's talk about that. You've been a farmer, you are a cook, you're a chef.
You're the only one, I believe, that stayed over in the Standard Foods transition, right?
That's correct.
Scott Crawford when it went to Eric Montagny.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. So,
besides the dishwasher, Martine, he was still there.
Good old
he
Martine.
is still, yeah.
That's to be on a later podcast. We'll have Martine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But so what? As Max said, you're a farmer, and then how'd you fuse the kitchen thing? Are you culinarily trained, officially, or?
Oh yeah, I was actually in school before I started farming, so I was in culinary school. Actually went down to visit my cousin in Florida. He's got a group of hippie friends, and they were one of them's an organic farmer. She brought a bunch of vegetables that they had harvested that day, left over from the market, and I was in school, and I was all excited about cooking and wanted to cook them dinner, and I'd never worked with such fresh product, and instantly fell in love, and it just kind of blew me away, and it just felt right that was something I needed to be doing, was more local, farm to table.
About how old were you at this point?
I don't know, man, 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been cooking that long, honestly. Only about 6 years.
But your background is in farming.
No, it's not. It's more cooking. Absolutely.
Okay, more cooking.
Yeah.
So I have an inkling that your grandmother had something to do with your interest in farming.
It would be more my grandfather, I think. And it's not like we did it together, but he was an agricultural engineer for the government.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
So,
but your father was an agricultural engineer.
Grandfather, yes.
Grandfather in North Carolina?
No, he actually, my mother and their family grew up in India. So he was sent over there to teach sustainable agricultural irrigation, stuff like that.
Did he hire G. Patel at any point while he was there? He was a farmer in India, too.
It's true.
That's
so, like, your dad was on there on a diplomatic mission, so to speak, or something like that? Or, like you said, to teach them how to do it, but...
I moved down here when I was 6 from Northern Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
My dad still lives up there. My parents were divorced when I was young. My mom and stepdad moved me and my 2 brothers down here. I moved down here at 6. Grew up here, went to Leesville Road High School.
Very cool.
Yeah, traveled around a little bit after school. Went down some wrong roads. Luckily made it out.
So at some point you found yourself working into a kitchen. You were getting educated in the culinary world. Was it Wake Tech?
It was Wake Tech, yeah.
And then, of course, I think the farming aspect was more by virtue of availability on the space where you lived. Is that
pretty much? Well, I mean, it started as a hobby, just growing in tomatoes in pots as one would on their back deck or whatever. I was renting and couldn't do much more than that.
Sure.
got a little plot in a friend's garden to expand, and I was like really into it. Started canning tomato sauce and stuff like that. And it's really funny. We tried to start a catering company. We were in culinary school. It was called Farm to Your Table. We had no experience at all. We were still in school, and like,
who's we?
Megan and I.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Megan's your wife.
Yes.
She is about to pop.
She is. Yes.
As we speak, she's about 8.5, 9 months pregnant as we speak.
Yeah, 9 months. Yeah.
She was going to be here. Yeah. But she might be giving birth any second.
That's true. She was full term as of yesterday. So
yeah, and you spoiled Max's joke. He had a whole thing of hot peppers and jalapenos to give her.
Yeah, I'll show it on that.
Based on the episode from Jordan Salcido's, discovered that hot, spicy food induces labor.
Nice. Yeah, so this is for you, Megan. I'll put it in your empty seat.
Yeah.
And you can eat all of those serranos and tomatillos and
Poblanos.
And poblanos, yeah. Make it happen.
Yeah, if it's going too long. So yeah, you guys are like we say, full with the entrepreneurial spirit, as you have Under the Oak Farms. Megan, your wife, has I Love Cakes, where she makes
I Do Cakes.
Yes. And that's something where she makes cakes for all types of weddings or any occasion.
Yep.
And then you also have, on top of that, Meats and Pickles.
Yes, sir.
Right? So tell us about that.
I mean, that's just a box lunch program, part of Under the Oak Farm. So Under the Oak Farm is our LLC. It started as a garden for ourselves to eat. I expanded and started selling produce. Then I started pickling the produce because I didn't sell it all. And kind of, developed some really good recipes over years and started selling pickles at a market. And that's got really good feedback and started making really good money. And I was like, I think I got something here. So I cut back at Standard and started taking off full time there.
Which is cool too, because if we're talking about Standard Foods, they have they obviously have their own farm there with David McConnell. He might be a future guest on the show. Excellent guy, but they have their own farm, they have their own grocery, and so even through there, it was kind of a means to an end to sell vegetables to the restaurant and to possibly even sell some of your pickled vegetables in the market.
Yep.
And it was that's the one thing I really love about Standard Foods is it cultivates small business, a cool like North Carolina small business to get out there, and you're like a product of an employee that did it and put it out there. Meanwhile, even being in the butcher for a time, you were the butcher for a few months, I think.
Just about, it was like a little over a month.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, that's one thing I knew when working at Standard was that Blake was kind of down for anything. He was the guy that could help out in any possible way. It's like he would also not be afraid of walking out in the dining room and and doing some, like bringing some food out there, which does always bring me to one specific thing, and it's like one of the most emotional things that I could think of. I spoke about it on the podcast before, and I got all choked up, but let's talk about it. So one of the things that you created through all of these businesses that you've done was a charity organization as well, named Roots For Reece.
Yeah.
And so Reese was one of your close friends, and he unfortunately died. And you created something to help educate and inspire those afflicted with his condition. Would you care to speak a little more about that?
Oh, absolutely. One of my best friends, Reese Bird, he passed away last year from a heroin overdose. Something he and I both struggled for years. I've been clean for about 8 years now. And he had gotten clean for a few years, and it just took one trip back out there, man, and got a bad bag, and that was it. He's one of 6 of my friends growing up that have passed away from it, so it's just it was the last straw for me, and for me to still be alive and I've overdosed, I think 6 or 7 times. Wow. So I don't know why I'm still here. There might be a reason. And I think maybe that's you have a purpose to give back
And so what does the Roots For Reece money go? Where does it go, and how does it help?
Most of the money we've been raising has gone to the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition. They are a nonprofit that basically, at first I wanted to start a nonprofit. Roots For Reece originally was going to be one. I didn't realize how much was involved in that and what it was going to take to get that actually happening. It's a big process. Reese's mom gave me an article about the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition, and they were doing literally everything that I had envisioned for Roots For Reece. The biggest thing is distribution of naloxone kits.
What is naloxone, kid?
It's a life-saving drug. It's the reason why I'm still here. It's a nasal spray or it's a shot administered that basically reverses the effects of heroin or opiates. So it knocks it off your receptor.
Okay.
So if you're overdosing, basically it kicks it off your receptor and allows your body to recover and come back. So
Yeah. So what do you know? Like, what's the cost of even one of those kits?
I don't know the average cost. I know the shots were anywhere from $60. I know that the nasal kits can be like $15 to $30 from what I was told last time. So
let's be honest, it's a pretty nominal fee
absolutely.
to save a life.
Yeah. Like the Roots For Reece dinners started, each ticket could save a life was the idea, and that was it's
so
pretty
cool. The name Roots For Reece, you were growing a lot of root vegetables
Correct, yeah.
in your farm under the Oak Farm out in Clayton, and selling a lot of the root vegetables. I think that's what I was buying at Midtown, and then eventually we were buying. So with you and with the guys at Standard Foods, Chef Eric Montagny, and I think even Chef de Cuisine Will Sissa and all, you guys put together pretty cool specials for the night that would be root-inspired vegetables, and 100% of the proceeds of that dish would go to Roots For Reece. And the moment that I was speaking of was kind of the first night we kicked it off. And Blake, he's talking about it. He did pre-shift with the whole staff. We were tasting the dish, which was unbelievable. Walk us through, what did you put?
A smoked beet salad with roasted and shaved root vegetables, daikon yogurt, some preserved lemon.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a nice dish. It was $9, so it's like $9 every time was going to go to support this cause. And to make matters even a little bit more emotional, we were selling all of these, but Reese's mom came in with her friend to dine, and so there was a moment where she's sitting down to order, and Blake is finishing prepping it, and he's like, "Hey man, I want to take this out to the dining room. I want to serve this to my friend's mom." And so he brought it out there, served it to her. She got up, he got up. You guys embraced. It was beautiful. It was an emotional time. But then, in addition to that one moment, I saw like humanity and I saw beauty. Because as our servers were telling guests that night what this cause was, one particular guest started it all off, and he said, "Wait, so if I buy this dish, $9 goes to the charity?" And said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, cool, I'll get it. And tell you what, order another one and just send it to another table, courtesy of us." I thought, okay, well, that's really nice of you. So we did that, and when that plate just showed up at a random table, and we said, "Hey, a guest gifted this to you," then they paid it forward and gave it to another table, and then it happened again and again and again.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
It was really one of the most beautiful things, and we sold so many. I mean, we pretty much sold out that night and ran it on the menu for a time, and it became inspirational, and talked about the other restaurants that have even picked it up. I mean, you've done this with more restaurants other than just Standard Foods.
Yeah, I had a lot of chefs come out and support and help out. Mandolin. We had Soka, Fiction Kitchen, Full Steam Brewery out in Durham.
No, I mean, and it's amazing. So if you're a diner in the local Triangle area and you ever do see a dish on the menu that's Roots For Reece, you understand what that means and where it's going.
Correct.
So it's a pretty cool addition to the local community and helping support a pretty impactful cause that's really... I mean, it's grossly large in North Carolina, sadly.
It is, yeah. It's one of the worst states in the country, actually.
How can you find out more about Roots For Reece or how to get involved in this sort of, I guess, epidemic?
Well, we have a Facebook page. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with everything I have going on, I don't have too much time to update it and get it running as much as possible. So right now, we're kind of just a fundraising organization.
Right.
So we're putting on charity dinners. We have an idea to do one early summer, which could be a big one, which we wanted to get you guys involved.
Yeah, well, we'll of course post information. Yeah, obviously we'll be involved as well. But I just not to get too much into this topic, because I can imagine how difficult it is for you to talk about it. But so just for me to understand and for the listeners, so this naloxone, back to that for a second, that's like an immediate reaction for once the situation has heightened to the worst possible scenario.
Correct.
But does this North Carolina harm reduction also help to get involved to avoid or help people get clean?
Oh, absolutely. They do everything.
Okay.
Yeah. They offer funding for rehabilitation,
Awareness,
Awareness,
education.
yeah, exactly, everything. I mean, they're doing everything I would ever wanted.
I wanted to ask for you, and obviously talk about it as much as you feel free. How did you, what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you to say, screw this, I'm getting clean, enough with this?
It was it's kind of hard to talk about, but the last time I overdosed, I think it was when I came back to life in my mom's arms, like her resuscitating me. I think that kind of did it. So
from that moment, you said you kind of crossed the boundary.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I applaud you. Obviously, it's hard to talk about, but a lot harder to even do. So, and just speaks to more now, not to get too sappy, and have
we're already there. We're already sappy.
But
tears have fallen.
Yeah, the fact of and me having a child now also, and you're about to be a dad, it's and to pass that on and be able to do that is pretty much the ultimate recuperation, I would say.
Yeah.
The fact that you're about to be a father and you're bringing in a whole new generation is amazing, and that you've had 8 years of sobriety to be strong and kind of get your life turned around. You are an example, in some small way. Blake, you can let people that maybe have this addiction problem and think that their life isn't going to change. You can actually show, hey man, I was pretty bad off.
Yeah.
And 8 years later, I'm married. I'm about to have a kid. I have businesses. I'm well respected in my community. I have a ton of friends. I'm on the NCFB podcast.
Come on, yeah. If that's not the pinnacle, then what else is, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you do, having worked with you breathe so much life into that environment that you weren't just a guy back there chopping vegetables and putting them on heat. It's you were an element of the community that really was a driving force. So I was speaking with Blake after the podcast had finished, and we got into some pretty important stuff. We were talking about naloxone and the benefits, and how there are some controversial situations with the perception of naloxone. So it was important for him to come back and speak about how he feels about it and let everyone know exactly how it helped him, how it's benefited his life. He also came back with Megan, his beautiful bride, who is 2 days away from giving birth. This is a Tuesday, and February 1st, the day this episode drops, she should be in the hospital. Megan, will you say hello?
Hello.
Megan of I Do Cakes, and she's out there at Herons, but also works with Under the Oak Farm. And yes, she's very pregnant right now. She's glowing, though.
Pregnant AF.
So thank you again for being in here. So Blake, let's get into it. We were talking about naloxone and talking about how it benefits you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one thing I wanted to touch base on. Sometimes it's getting a misconception or a bad rap that it's basically, some people are thinking that it's enabling addicts to keep using, knowing that they have something that can just save them. And I can definitely see why people believe that. I have friends and family that have brought that to my attention. But I actually explained to them it's not really the case, because right now heroin is being cut so much with fentanyl, and it's not being done properly. It's an extremely powerful drug, and it's being synthetically made overseas, and it's basically, it's not giving addicts a second chance. So if they take it and they do too much, they don't have a naloxone on them, they're not going to come back.
Blake didn't just use naloxone once just to get through it. He used it.
Yes. The way he explained it to me was, you just need that one chance to come back and change your mind, and you don't know when that one chance is going to be. So the more available this drug is, the more opportunities the addict themselves has to reach that breaking point.
It's the funny thing is it's much harder than just getting clean. So there's a lot more than, it's a lot of work, and it's going to continue to be work. So
yeah, every day is going to be a tough day.
Yeah, it's hard work. But once you can get clean, nothing gets in your way. Because if you can beat that, it's the hardest thing in the world. But if you beat it, you're unstoppable.
Well, remember that when you're having to wake up every 2 hours changing baby diapers. That's pretty fucking hard, too. Well, thank you again for being on the show. And Megan, thank you for making it down here and coming out here. Stay tuned for more of the rest of the show. So for more information, go to the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition website. That's www.nchcfnb.org. nchrc.org. nchrc.org, North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition.
We partnered up with Triangle Wine Company because these guys are awesome. They offer weekly wine tasting events, a wide range of wine and beers from around the world, and an easy online store to find the wines that you like. They also offer pickup, local delivery, and shipping. We even set up a promo code NCFB so you can receive 10% off all future purchases.
Go to trianglewineco.com or one of their 3 locations, and for $99, pick up the NCFNB 6-pack, which includes 3 white wines, 3 red wines, and we threw an official NCFNB hat in the bag.
So once again, buy your wine online or in-store at the Triangle Wine Company and use our promo code NCFB during checkout to receive 10% off your future wine and beer purchases. Go to trianglewineco.com or click the top of our website at ncfbpodcast.com.
I just want to throw in there as a preface to what we're about to talk about and to kind of validate who you are. You do these Saturday night pop-up dinners at Kimbop because she doesn't use the space on Saturday night, and you were kind enough to invite Sarah and I. And we went, and first of all, we were absolutely blown away. Like, to be honest, we don't always eat like that, like terrines and pâtés and all this stuff. But like
Carbs.
Yeah, lots of carbs. But not only did Sarah and I just thoroughly enjoy ourselves, and just a wealth of different flavors and stuff that just really made you think, but also enjoy your meal. And also, I have to say, we didn't feel like at the end too full where we walked away. But what I'm getting at when I'm driving at, the most important thing is Sarah, my wife, had never met you, but I had already told her, oh yeah, Blake's going to be the guy that's going to be cooking at my 40th birthday, which you did and did an amazing job, and that's something we'll talk about later. But what Sarah said, and Sarah's a pretty amazing evaluator of talent, and also has an amazing work ethic herself, which is very admirable. She said, man, he hustles. That guy's a hard worker. And I was like, yeah, you don't even know the half. So I just think, like, if for Sarah to see that and recognize that in you without even like really knowing you, but just see, that pretty much speaks to who you are. So definitely admirable quality.
Thank you.
Now let's proceed with talking about Under the Oak and everything else that you got going on.
Well, so I want to get there, but one of the curious things, and at some point, in the community, people know who Chef Scott Crawford is. He was at the Umstead, of course. Your wife was working at the Umstead. It's separate, but there is it's a small area. Everything's
of course.
there.
Yeah.
So Chef Scott Crawford was at the Umstead. Then he opened Standard Foods. At some point, he opened up Crawford and Son, which many people regard as one of the top restaurants in town, if not the state. James Beard nominee and all that a few times. So you worked with him for a time, and I've worked with some people that have worked with him as well. I'd love to know, just speaking about the fact that you worked with Scott at Standard, and then you worked with Chef Eric Montagny, who's been on the show with General Manager John Parra back in the day. Still one of our most listened to episodes. I'd love to know perspective of not just working for different chefs, but this was a unique environment where both chefs kind of have their own style.
Oh, absolutely.
Very different.
Yeah.
Give us a little insight. What would be extremely opposite thoughts of working for Chef Scott Crawford to Chef Eric Montagny?
They are completely opposite. Both amazing chefs and amazing people. That I can say.
They're both handsome in their own way.
And that as well. Yeah. It was great. I benefited so much. For sticking it out through the transition and everything, I really lucked out. I mean, if you think about it, I learned from twice as many chefs as anybody else. I got to work at Standard, 2 butchers. It really skyrocketed my career. Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely a different atmosphere in the kitchen. Eric's a little more laid back.
He's a lot laid back.
A lot more laid back, yeah. Scott runs a tight ship for sure. But they both have different methods. They both work really well. And I think that...
Do you ever get yelled at by Scott?
Not as much as you would think.
Okay.
I think his reputation... Yeah, he's not as... His reputation, he's a family guy now,
Yeah.
He's a great guy, and he... I don't think we ever had any...
Like heated moments.
No, nothing too bad.
Well, I wonder if
yeah.
some of what Matt's alluding to is there is a little reputation that Scott was kind of like, he was tough in the kitchen because he demanded excellence, especially being at the Umstead where, there were what is it, five diamond 4-star restaurant, or I don't have that reversed.
Five diamond
5-star.
Forbes.
Yeah, 5-star.
Forbes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got.
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering what the environment kind of would have been like working for a chef that's sober and all that, and like how he just approached it, because we all know that the industry is fast and
Yeah,
loose.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know, people are drinking, people are doing drugs, all of the sexual harassment things about Batali and Besh and all that coming out everywhere. It's a pretty aggressive industry, and everyone's got this like machismo, whether you're male or female. It's like,
Yep.
suck it up, bro. That's the way it is.
Yeah, there's not a lot of political correctness going on.
No,
in
not
the
at all.
Restaurant industry.
Yeah, and that's not a great thing. I'm not saying, that's the environment. As Matt and I were both 40, that's the environment that we grew up in, the generation, for good or for bad, and really for bad. You get this stupid cockiness and dumb mentality, not only to drink a lot, to party a lot, but also to like incessantly work long hours for no reason. Like, I just pulled 16 hours today. Well, you're an idiot. Why don't you go home and see your family?
Yeah, we're the rock stars, man. That's it. It's the rock stars that didn't make it.
Yeah. So I wonder, I mean, like, you take some of those, you take some of that fuel out, meaning the drugs, the alcohol, and even just now being a married man and all that, and take the ladies out and all that. It's like it kind of leaves you with just the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, probably why Standard has a great menu. Probably why Crawford and Son has an amazing menu. It's just they're just putting out great content now at this point. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think Ben Barker also alluded to it on his episode where he was talking about, and I think this is just part of culturally where we are with companies leading the way like Google or PricewaterhouseCoopers, or you look at any like Red Hat right here locally, or SAS. Quality of life is very important, and that goes into restaurant industry and corporate America. And that, so Ben was talking about how when he was running Magnolia Grill, that he didn't see his son much, and that his wife was doing a lot of the raising of his son, and he missed that, and he almost felt guilty about it. And the fact is that I just feel like whether being regardless of being sober or inebriated, whatever, there's a quality of life mix that is now all people in all industries are aware of. I think it's important.
Yeah,
like work-life balance.
So now for you, you've translated to, you're not in a restaurant anymore. You're completely working for yourself. I mean,
correct.
You will do events in restaurants like we spoke about, like Kimbap and things like that. But so what is your family dynamic now? Is Megan just like, get out of the house? I see you all the time.
I mean, she works at the Umstead still full time.
Yeah.
So, she'll get home and put her feet up and relax. And I'm kind of all over the place. I'm either at home working, or like I said, at Kimbap doing events, box lunch deliveries. I mean, I'm kind of all over the place. So it's very rare that she's not getting sick of me. Unfortunately,
Yeah. So you and so people that should know about what they should know about Under the Oak Farms is you do everything from A to Z. I mean,
yes.
You are what is the term you're using? You're doing from the root to the table.
Seed to fork, I guess.
Seed to
you
fork,
call it.
Yeah. Even like the dressings you make, the hot sauce, which is still in my fridge and awesome. I'm enjoying it on pretty much every meal that I have. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So for this dinner you did, I asked, because my family was coming down from up north and they don't really know barbecue or authentic Southern cooking. So you put together like a good old Southern meal and even made like the collard greens with the ham hocks and all this great stuff. But like everything that was on that plate, I think that you made. I don't even know if there's any exception. Like I would say,
not just made, grew. I mean, you didn't grow the pigs, but
well, I mean, from talking about, you made the sauce, you made the ice cream, even you made the cakes. For the.
Well, that'd be Megan, but definitely, came from us for sure.
It's all under the Oak umbrella. But,
that dinner actually I wanted to feature a couple things. Like I brought Sean Fowler's barbecue sauce for the brisket that I did.
Right. Yeah. Future guest on the show, actually.
Yeah, he's a great guy. That sauce is something special. The black and blue, it was the black and blue. Now it's Blue Eyed Pete's.
Right.
I also had some fork and spoon pasta for that mac and cheese. That was really good.
That was delicious.
Wasn't about to make handmade pasta for mac and cheese. I thought about it, but
no. But those guys,
I think that's where I draw the line.
They're putting out some serious pasta.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff for sure.
Shout out to Fork and Spoon.
Yeah, you're also not cutting any corners by authentically using all local ingredients.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. It was Homeland Creamery for the heavy cream, and Ashe County Romano and the Fork and Spoon pasta. So
which is why it cost Matt $4,000 to have you do this meal.
Totally worth every penny. No, but Blake, I think that's important for people to understand your business, and maybe you could just speak to why you are you alluded to it a little bit, having cooked down in Florida at your cousin's house. But why is that important to you now, and why are you so strict about that?
I'm really strong about the slow food movement and really focusing on eating local. It's going to be the future. It's the only way I think this country or any country can survive.
When you say slow food,
as in just eating local, not getting trucks of produce shipped in from across the country. That's not necessary. We eat fine off the garden we have.
Yeah.
So it's it's the demand for having a tomato all year round that's kind of ruining agriculture. So
which really is fed by the fast food industry more than anything, because the menu has to be the same every single day.
Yeah.
Rather than just being seasonal, and people just forget that we do have seasons.
Yeah, we do, but there's ways around it, and my way is preserving. So that's basically how I based all my cooking is off preservation at this point.
Right.
Whether it's curing meat.
And that you said was almost like a happy accident, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, with the overflow or overstock of produce, stuff like that, it honestly started with like a bunch of radishes that chefs can only use so many. So I had a bunch. I pickled them; they were really good, and
that's
sold
kind of
some.
why pickling was invented.
That's exactly why. It's to put it up for winter. But I've been experimenting with a lot of different ways of food preservation without altering flavor. Have
you ever thought about a freezer?
Freezers work, yeah, they do. But with fermentation, you get a lot of probiotics, and it's actually really good for your gut.
Yeah,
and they taste great. So
right. What do we do in North Carolina about olive oil, though? Because I know that we're as local as we can get is pretty much Georgia.
Georgia, that is the case.
So
yeah.
are you? Well, is that okay?
I am.
The rules?
Yeah, I think so. I love olive oil, and it's closer than Italy. So.
Will we ever have? Why can they? Do you know why? Why can they grow olives in Georgia, but we can't have groves here in North Carolina?
They just have that perfect climate. It's one of
more
those microclimate kind of things.
Yeah.
Like certain things just grow really well in certain parts of California. Like
Right.
there's one area that grows Brussels sprouts for like the whole world.
Yeah.
It does really good there.
Yeah, I think it's like Santa Cruz County is the Brussels sprouts capital of the world. This is like John Steinbeck country. Author John Steinbeck.
Of Mice and Men.
Yes, exactly. Like all of that's kind of just south of where I grew up.
Yeah.
So,
but back to what you're saying, like what was driving me about using local and stuff like that. I just like I said, I feel like it's going to be paramount to us surviving with the way that this country's going and the way the world's going. Honestly, I mean, we can't keep trucking in and using fuel. It's just not sustainable. I mean, we got to make a change, and if I can do a little bit by cooking some food and getting people to eat local all year round without them really having to work for it. That's why I started doing the prepared meal deliveries. That actually just started out of one lady asked me to do it for her family, offered me a good amount of money to do it, and then I realized that I'd be cooked 2 extra for my wife and I, and then I have really good food all week. So, and that just started taking off now.
Right.
But that's kind of like my passion project, because it's not going to make a lot of money until it's scaled up. But when it scales up, I've already gotten a chicken farmer to almost quit his full-time job and start raising chickens full-time, because I'm getting enough chickens from him to do that.
Were those the chickens that you made at my...
Those were from Olmo Bernie Farm, but
Okay.
So he's already doing that full-time. But I got a small guy out in Johnson County where I'm from, or where we're at.
So another anecdote into our world here. So you made those small chickens for quarter chickens for my
I
birthday.
was dreaming of that chicken the next day.
And so the funny thing was, so Max and I were talking the next day, and I don't know, we were talking some podcast stuff, and he's like, man, yeah, I wish I had some of those chickens right now. And I said, well, I'm living your dreams because I got leftovers.
Nice.
And I was mowing down on some of the chicken with the spicy sauce right there.
He saw me the next day. He could have showed up with a little Tupperware.
I ate them all, dude.
Damn you.
It was gone.
So so with these sandwiches, I mean, you brought them at the Meredith Lee interview that we talked about in the episode, and those are great. So essentially, like if you're in Raleigh or in that area, probably like a radius of 20, 30 miles or so, put in an order. You can come. Essentially, I mean, you could like house a whole business office party or something, or an office luncheon the next day.
Yeah, not same day. We prefer 48 hours notice, because it's more of a catering than like order Panera and get it brought to your into your company or anything like that.
But let's be honest, this is not Panera when you get the sandwich.
No, I mean, I'm making the bread, I make the pickles, I make the meat, I grew the vegetables. Is a little more involved than just calling up placing your order.
Your food is delicious, man.
But But yeah, we can do 24 hours notice for the most part. Obviously, large parties we prefer a little more.
Yeah. So I want to speak about this. Is cool. When we talk about entrepreneurship and talk about startup, one of the steps that so many people, when you're listening to, oh, this is how I made it, this is how I did it, this is how I got it going on. I feel like the first step sometimes is like glossed over. Yeah. And so one of the things I thought was funny, and where I'm going with this is, you were just throwing out the idea of doing a pop-up dinner at your house farm under the oak. I mean, you have a large oak tree in your backyard that's just adjacent to your farm area, which in my head, when I was thinking farm, I was thinking like fields and acres and acres. It's a pretty modest, petite little area, but it's prolific. I mean, you can grow quite a bit out of that one small space. But I remember, we all kind of know some people in the business, and even just through my wife and through friends, we started talking to a plate company. And Boucher, they're friends of the business. They've helped us out in the past. I remember we met up over at their place, at their showroom, and Jeff, the guy running it, is just super down for what you do. Like, he had some of your food and was like, man, this guy's awesome. And we thought, is there any way we could like get some plates for his first dinner to just do whatever? And he goes, yeah, I'll do one better. How about, Blake, you commit to just doing this, like not just once, but do it all the time. And here, take these plates and just do it. And so through like generosity of one local businessman believing in someone doing something, you were able to have the means to effectively put the good food that you have on plates to do this. And that first dinner was with Chef Eric Montagny of Standard Foods, Soka,
Andrew Smith.
Yeah. Andrew Smith, that's right. And who am I missing? Sorry,
the first one was just us four, Megan and I.
And Megan, that's right. Yeah. So it was you four. And it was 4 courses. It was literally under your tree. And we had cocktails from Topo. Esteban from Topo was out there making great drinks. Not for you, of course. But I had your share. And it was really cool. And it's like, wow, he didn't just do this. He did this extremely well. And Jeff from Boucher was there. And he was like, man, this is pretty sweet. He like felt affirmed that he chose the right horse to bet on. And since then, you've been running wild, man. You've done maybe 4 or 5 of these pop-up dinners at your farm.
Yes, yeah.
And then, of course, doing things at Kimbop. And then now you're looking at getting a bigger space. I mean, it's all kind of wheels in motion. We don't want to say anything specific, but that's like the next step, right?
That is, yeah. We have an opportunity to take over a large facility for a wedding venue out there in Johnson County that still not 100% yet, but it's my wife's dream for sure to have a wedding cake business, and that's a perfect outlet.
Well, and everything would be in-house catering. Cakes,
oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
I mean, think about it. If
NCF
you want to get
bar is the in-house bar.
Yeah, but if you want to get married and you go out to this beautiful farm, Blake's making all the food, of which something similar to what we just had at Matt's 40th birthday, which was ridiculous, and then you're getting a wedding cake designed by essentially those that make the wedding cakes at the Umstead with your wife Megan. I mean, it just sounds perfect. So like that whole thing just makes a lot of sense. And I just love that it's an upstart thing. And if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth and dad gave you a bunch of cash to do this, sure, that's cool, but that's clearly not how this happened.
Not at all.
And you kind of pulled yourself back up, man, from what many consider to be a pretty devastating spot in your life to coming up to being who you are now. It's inspirational. It's pretty cool, man.
Literally pulled yourself up from the roots.
Nice.
And no, it is. Speaking then business-wise, so if you get this venue, or even if you don't, and I know you've done some, I think you've done some weddings already, but is that whole, that I guess is the question for, business versus profit versus ethics. How is that scalable if you do like a large wedding, some of these people that have 500 people weddings, is that possible?
Not for me. There's a certain number where quality suffers,
starts to diminish, and so you wouldn't do that.
I won't do weddings more than like 200 people unless I have an army of staff that can batch cook it perfectly every time, because I'm not gonna sacrifice quality for quantity.
Gotcha.
That's why I love when you go to like a huge hotel dinner and you have the salmon, the chicken, the beef.
It's been in the hot box for 6 hours.
But that's awesome. That also speaks to your ethics about like, I'm just not going to do that. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm in this business to cook good food, not just throw food on plates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's. I'm not going to cook something I'm not proud of. So when it comes to catering, and that's the one thing I never understood. It's like, for people getting married, it's the most important day of their life, and they always eat the shittiest food.
Yeah.
So I just never understood that. That's the most expensive day of their life,
So
you know.
true.
Like, and the food's never good. I mean, I've never been to a wedding where I've been like, holy shit, that food was good.
Food, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, mine was kind of like that. Our wedding was good.
Yeah.
But we catered our own.
You catered your own wedding?
We did, yeah. Yeah, it was kind of rough, but yeah, we did.
You catered your own wedding?
Not the day of. I had a group of local chef friends help me out the day of, but Megan and I prepped it all.
Oh,
So.
that gives a whole new meaning to wedding madness.
Yeah. It was. Don't ever do that.
Yeah,
Anybody
no, I
listening,
don't plan
don't
on
ever.
it.
You've got a lot going on,
Yeah.
and hopefully you're going to see some stuff with the NCFB podcast and Under the Oak Farms in the future. We'd love to have our community of listeners enjoy what you're doing and bring it to you. So without throwing anything specific out, we're working on dates and ideas, but look for something, and we'll get this out. Actually, when this episode airs, it's going to be about 3 or 4 weeks from today that when we're recording it, so hopefully we have more information that we can put up at the time.
And a baby.
And there will be a
yeah.
baby. Yeah, so
There'll be a new Gotliffe in the world.
yeah, do we know? Is it boy or girl?
We don't know. We'll find out. Yeah.
Well, Max is a great name.
I'm pretty
either
sure
way.
it might be a good chef, though.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
It's going to be able to do it all, pastry and savory. But anything that you need, obviously, if you want to get in touch with Blake, go to undertheoakfarms.com.
Yep. Yeah, we actually just started our online ordering system for Meat and Pickles and all the prepared meals.
Cool. If you wanted to get in touch with him, I mean, obviously you can do it through us at the show or just info@ncfbpod.com. Or do you have an email address that you want to plug?
You can do info.undertheoakfarm@gmail.com.
info.undertheoakfarm@gmail.com.
There we go.
Boom.
Perfect. And we do have, even though you've provided gifts for us before, we have some gifts to provide you.
Oh, yeah. This is
nice.
part of the new 2018 guest program here for the NCFB. We have partnered with some friends, friends of the show. Some everybody we've had on the show before. We thought it would have been a little uncouth to give you a bottle of Social House vodka, but
I have friends over. I mean,
but they're buddies, and you're more than welcome to take a bottle with you. But but what you're grabbing in right now is a bag of 42 and Lawrence Larry's Beans coffee, specific to you guys. So Jeremy, who's been on the show before, specifically picked out a type of roast that speaks to you as a farmer, and he wrote a little note in there just for you. In addition, Annabelle Commissar, who's been on the show, she is about to open Michael's English Muffins. It might actually be open as we speak. She delivered those fresh this morning.
Nice.
And then you get some swag from us, some
Sweet.
shirts, some hats, some water bottles. We better see you wearing our stuff in public.
That's right.
I will. And I have T-shirts coming. I've ordered some new ones to be made.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll definitely get
all
some for
guests,
you guys.
we're putting together these bags, so hopefully there will be things that are all North Carolina
like
and
it.
all useful.
Yeah, if you want to donate to your stuff to put in the gift bag, just let us know. Hit us up at max@ncfbpodcast.com. Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, well, Blake and I are partnering up on a cool dinner where I'm going to pair the wines and he's doing the food. Max can bring the NCF and bar if needed too, if you want cocktails involved.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and that you can still contact me, Matt at ncfbpodcast.com. Blake, so seriously, you've been inspiration. I really admire your hard work and your ability to keep all these businesses and juggle all these different things. It's inspirational. So
Thank you.
and also, help out as you can on Roots For Reece. Look for those dinners. Go to undertheoakfarm.com and then eat and drink very merrily.
Guests of the NCF&B podcast receive a swag bag including gifts from these rockstar North Carolina producers: Larry's Beans and 42 and Lawrence, Social House Vodka, and Michael's English Muffins. Join us next week when we chat with Colleen Speaks of Hummingbird, Whitaker and Atlantic, and Posh Nosh Catering. That's next time, right here on the NCF&B podcast.